Good afternoon. Welcome back to our teleconference. Thank you very much for participating today. And first of all, of course, Happy New Year. Although we are already in the third month of the year, but this is our first moment that we interact again. Please, I would like to remind you that this teleconference is recorded. So we will publish probably tomorrow or the day after the recording on our website, as well through a current report on the BVB. As well as I'll kindly ask you if you have questions. They are more than welcome. We received a few questions on forehand. We will answer them at the end. You can answer them in the chat box, and Daniela Descu will read them. So I have some time to think and to come up with the answer. Or one of the other participants, because I'm not alone here, although you see the others not, but the CEO is available here as well. He's present, Mr. Jan de Boer. Also, our CFO is present, Gabriel Tico, as well as our chief accountant, Michaela Nekula. So we are with a strong team here today. So hopefully, in case you have questions, that we are for sure able to answer them. So let's start to the first slide. What we will do is first we'll go through 2024. How was the year? Then we go through the financials, and then we will also have an outlook, especially for Q1. So don't expect a full budget today that we will publish by the end of March, but we will give you an outlook for the first quarter. So yeah, it was a really successful year for the Enagora. We had 63 million liters of milk produced, so we had 14% increase over them. As well as we had an increase in animals to over 16,000. We reduced our number of companies for more efficiency to a number of 11. So in total, I think it was a really productive year for us. As well as if we look to the financials later on, we see that all our indicators are higher than what we budgeted. And it was quite unclear because we had some challenges, as you all know, especially the dry, or especially the high temperatures that we had from May till end of August, beginning of September, which costed us several million liters of milk, as well with the huge volatile price. Because if we go back to the beginning of the year, of course, we saw in the first quarter a drop of 20% in our sales price. So it was huge volatile. And by end closing of the year, on average, we had a higher milk price of 2.76%. So there were huge variations there. As I just mentioned, we have over 60,000 animals, 11 companies, 7,000 hectares in the group, 3,000 hectares but we work outside of the group, which provides food for our animals to be fully circular. Today at the farms, here we can see, especially at the poult farm, we have a large number. That's mainly due to the fact that the Straatje farm, the opening of the Straatje farm is delayed. We start now in the coming 2 weeks operation at the Straatje farm. So from now on, we will reduce the number of animals at the poult area. A part of that will go to the Straatje farm to start to produce milk over there. So we expect gradually that we will reduce the number of animals at the poult farm to 6,000 animals. So those 1,000 of 2,300 animals will go gradually to the Straatje farm. We have already some animals there, as you can see on the bottom right. 650 animals there. That is a young stock. They will come productive later this year, but they start to be there as a preparation for opening of the farm. The Lactera farm shows a consistent level of animals as well as milk production. For more or less, it's the same for the Koet farm. It varies always a bit with 49,000 liters a day or 53, or that is usually a bit maximum capacity over there. So if we go to the stock market performance, we had quite a successful year. We became the largest weight at the Aero Index. We had a market capitalization on average around 50 million euros. Also, the liquidity level was quite successful, especially if you compare the Enagora liquidity also on the main markets. That goes quite well over there as well. Of course, we had 2 target prices. In October, we had the one target price, the 21st, was updated to 1.76. as well as from BRK, we had 1.74. We were quite recognized on the IR department. We were, of course, shortlisted, or we ended in the top 5 for best IR retail strategy in all of Europe. And at the Arier Gala, we won the most prizes on the aero market for best annual report, best IR department, best ESG, etc. And especially if we go to the next slide over here, we saw a share price performance increase of over 14%, where we saw a decrease of approximately 11% on the index of the aero market. So although we were used to higher increases in the last couple of years, but we saw a significant correction in the market, of course, due to the hustle around elections in November, I think it was. But still, we show significant growth to many of our other peers, as well as that we significantly increased our shareholders to over 3,000 shareholders, which is a 60% increase. Then we go to the financial results. Please, Gabi, could you come?
Hello, everybody. Nice to see you again for the presentation of the financial results of the end of 2024. As you can see, we had record results at the end of 2024. The turnover increased with 16% and the net profit increased with 40%. So you can see the turnover what we had was 175 million, the net profit 31.75 million, and the EBITDA 70.72 million. Big increase comparing with 2023 with 31%. Also, the net assets increased with almost 20%, and we have now a figure of 277.39 million lei. The total assets increased also with 17% until 361.66 million, and also the equity increased until the figure of 164.99 million lei. The factors that influenced these results was the increase of the turnover by 16% because of the increase of milk production with 14%, and also the increase of the price of the milk. There was a decrease of the income from subsidies of 13% because of the elimination of the subvention for Ukraine. But still, we had the subvention only for 8,800 animals, which was the reference year established for 2018. And in total, we have now 13,000 animals. So next time when the reference year will change, the subventions for cows will increase approx 50%. There was an increase in raw materials and consumable expenses by 8% due to the increase of the number of animals that we had in 2024. There is also an increase in the personal expenses with 7% due to the elimination of the social security aid subsidies for the agriculture sector. And there is also an increase in depreciation by 21% due to the increase of the fixed assets with 15%, the increase of the number of animals, and also the revaluation that we had at the end of 2023 for all the buildings. There is an increase in the corporate income tax expenses by 71%. This is due to the depreciation expenses increase from revaluation of the buildings that we had at the end of 2023, and also due to the increase of the operational income. In the next slide, you can see there is a continuous financial growth performance. The results in 2024 were above the budgeted figures. You can see the turnover is now, at the end of 2024, 175 million lei, and the estimation was 153 million lei, which is more with 14%. The EBITDA also increased to 70 million lei, and we budgeted at the end of the beginning of 2024, we budgeted 64 million. So it's more with 10% than what we budgeted. The net profit is also increased a lot. Now it's 31.75 million lei, more with 1 million lei than what we budgeted at the beginning of 2024. So the preliminary financial results highlights for 2024 are as follows. The operating revenues in amount of 264 million had an increase of 13% compared to the same period of last year. The operating expenses increased by 9% in 2024 compared to 2023, reaching 290 million. The main contribution came from the expenses to value adjustments for tangible and intangible assets, which reached 25 million, an increase with 21% compared to the same period last year. The revenues from the production of tangible assets increased by 139%, reaching 20 million due to the registration as fixed assets of young dairy cows that have entered the milk production process. The equity increased by 24% compared to December 2023, reaching now 165 million. This evolution was determined by the recording of the net profit of 32 million at December 2024. Long-term liabilities increased also by 15% compared to the end of 2023. And at the end of 2024, the balance of long-term liabilities reached 110 million. The provision for the year 2024 remained the same level as at the end of 2023. So compared to the end of 2023, there was an increase in long-term loans that we contracted from Exim Bank with 35 million, representing an increase of 319% as a result of contracting a financing facility of 9.2 million euro in April 2024 for the construction of the Deneagrar Straja farm, as well as refinancing carried out for the loans from ING Bank. So that's about the financial analysis. The next, you will see the operational activity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the clarification, Mr. Gabriel. And probably, I think to add on that part is, especially, of course, when we saw the 9-month figures, the truth is also that by the end of the day, the final result, although we budgeted 30 million, but as I mentioned already, we had a quite hot summer, etc. So, and as we don't produce just it's not that you push on a button and there comes a package out of the fabric, but we work with a lot of people and animals. It's always there are always some risk factors, let's say, as well as of course the recalculation of the production cost that we do always. We do an estimation of the production cost at the beginning of the year. But yeah, especially with the crisis of the last couple of years, sometimes it's hard to estimate. So we were at 9 months. We also thought, okay, the final result. Also, I mentioned at that time there could be a variation of 10%. But in the end, it was quite positive, especially that the last quarter was extremely strong. And there were some reasons for that. For example, the sales price between Q3 and Q4, there was a difference of 16.8%, almost 17% difference in the milk price that we received. And if we look to 9 months and Q4, the difference in milk price was 19.3%. And if we look to the milk deliveries, also, if we compare Q3 to Q4, there's a difference of 6.6%. So the last quarter was extremely strong. Next to that, of course, we had also an extra income that was related to the production cost, that the production costs were lower than estimated of 1.2 million. Next to that, I would like to emphasize many times I see online, or many times, but relatively often, I see that some people write, oh, their profit is only their subsidies or whatsoever. So I will give you a strong argument also to convince other investors to invest in Deneagrar, that this is clearly this is just factual wrong. But for the last year, we had a bit over 13,000 animals eligible for subsidies. We received only of approx, and I'll do it from my head, approx 8,000 animals subsidies, which means that we only received on 66% of the eligible herd subsidies. So, and this is something that we expect that this percentage will go even lower in the coming years. Although there will come also a correction in the future, of course, for the Straja farm, which is a new farm. There we will start to register the animals from March. And we will receive in the future, based on the number of animals that we now register in the first year. So we have time to occupy the farm from March this year till March next year. And then for those head of animals, we receive subsidies, as well as for the liters of milk produced. So there will come a correction from. This is still related to the reference date of 2018. We will still do our best to lobby to change this reference date. But our priorities are clearly now to have injection into the grid of biomethane ASAP, because the most significant growth in the coming years, of course, could really come from this big deal for us. So then we go to the operational activity. We mentioned already over a whole year, 14% increase. I mentioned already Q3 to Q4, 6.6% increase. And over the whole year, we had a higher milk price of 2.76%. Also for the coming year, we expect growth. We just received today the overview for the previous month. I think we will announce it next week. But I can tell you already for February, it's a bit lower than what you're used to. That has two reasons. First of all, of course, February had 1 day less than compared to the previous year, as well as that the Appold farm is quite crowded. So there comes now more room as soon as we start now to move those animals. There comes more rest on that farm, as well as it will be less crowded. So we expect, although we will take animals from that farm, that the milk production, it will take some weeks, but that the milk production per cow will increase on that farm. So by year end, I think we will calculate on approx of a 10% milk growth for the coming year. But this we will present together with our budget at the end of March. If we look to the trends, some pages, let me see. If we look to the trends at the European milk market, we saw, of course, a growth of collected milk in Romania of over 8%. Also Poland. Poland is already for years performing really, really strong, and they are in a strong position to take over the role of huge exporter, especially from some countries in Western Europe. I just saw a graph in the Netherlands. It's now for the third year in a row that they collect less milk, and that goes quite fast. Which of course is to a certain degree good for us, especially that is one of the countries where the reference price is from, is one of those 6 countries that is included in the reference price for how we negotiate our contracts. As well as we saw, of course, at the beginning of the year, quite a sharp decrease. It is still significantly higher than Q1 last year. And also, if you look over here, So over here is the line for this year, and we see already it was really, really steep in the beginning, in the first parts of the week, and now we see slowly on that it starts to stabilize. This is a spot market milk price, and of course, it's always really a good indicator, or it predicts where the future milk price will go. This doesn't mean when it stabilizes here that we will see directly also at the processing plant a stabilization of the decrease of milk price. It means also in the coming period that the milk price will further decrease. Only as soon as it stabilizes at the spot market, then 1 month or 2 months later, usually it also starts to stabilize or grow at the processing plants. But still, the first quarter just looks really, really good. We saw the figures from January, and yeah, the figures so far look really good. But for the rest of the year, we need to see, especially if we have the experience from last year with this huge volatility in milk prices. which of course have a big effect by the end of the day on the financial figures. Then we go to the outlook. Of course, we have our current strategy, although we are working on a new strategy or an upgrade to it, is of course by the end of 2027, 2028 to produce 300,000 liters per day. That means that the Straße farm is fully operational, that we will produce with 5 farms. I've mentioned many times, to give you an example of the size, what is now 300,000 liters. Last year, again, Friesland Campina collected per day approx 290,000 liters per day. And through that, they go up to approx 1,400 dairy farms to collect that. We will produce in approx 2, maximum 3 years, the same amount, but then only with 5 farms and with a herd of 20,000 animals. That's including dairy cows and young stock. I mentioned already that we start in 2 weeks or maximum 2 weeks to start to operate at the Straße farm. So then we will milk the first cows, and later on we will see the rest of the schedule there. I think in the first 2 weeks of April, we will announce our new strategy. That will be the strategy till 2030, where we will announce, in the strategy, we will announce several new investments. I think we will announce already 2 of those investments later this year. And the investment that we will announce this year, we are currently purchasing land for those projects, as well as financing. Tomorrow we have a meeting for one of the projects to secure financing. And we expect that we can start to execute or to construct those projects from the second part of next year. But we will now start buying land, permitting, these kind of things, securing financing. And I can assure you already, especially due to the market conditions, that we will not go to the market or to a capital increase, but that we will look for other sources of financing besides the stock exchange. Then we go to the farms of 2027, 2028. Yeah, what we add here is mainly the Straße farm with 5,000 animals. So now we start to milk in 1-2 weeks with the first cows. But you should imagine in one truck we can fit approx 30 cows. So although we have several trucks, but it takes some time to populate the farm. Also, everything needs to be tested, etc. And then by the end of the year, we will gradually occupy the farm, or populate the farm. Currently, we have place for 1,100 dairy cows, so that's the first step to fill up. But by the end of December, there will be 1,800 dairy cows at the Straße farm, and then afterwards, every month again, we add approx 100 animals to that farm until we reach, by the end of 2027, 4,000 dairy cows and approx 1,000 young stock animals. One milking parlor is already finalized. We will see later on the slides that the second milking parlor is also going quite ahead. They started this week to put all the metal construction there, and that we expect in April to be finalized. But to be clear, with the first milking rotor, we can milk over 2,000 cows. So normally the second milking rotor we don't need this year, but we try to speed up as much as we can to reach as soon as we can this 300,000 liters per day of production. Then again, we have the acquisition farm. I think it was good to inform. We almost reached in January a memorandum of understanding for an acquisition of a farm. Even the press release was ready. It was also already in the documents for the EGMS together with the solar panels and the approval for the loan for the second compost plant. Unfortunately, it collapsed just completely at the end. But we are seriously looking for some M&A. We see that the sector is struggling. We get many offers, etc. So we're constantly looking if in the coming years we could also integrate 1 or 2 farms. Let me see. Yeah, here. Then the key highlights, of course, for Straße. The foundation, the roof is finished. We have 1,100 places at the moment. Finalized, as I said already, second milking parlor in April. And we don't expect now a significant almost one third of the farm is finalized, the main constructions, let's say. So 2/3 still needs to be done, but the 2/3 is mainly constructed by our own construction team. So we have full control on those processes. So we don't expect any significant delays anymore, and for sure not to reach this 1,800 animals. We have just some relative recent pictures. So you can see on the left top, so over here. So this is the first milking parlor. It's fully finished. You can see even with the robots, etc. It's driving around, so it's fully ready to start to operate. Also, the milk tanks are ready, so we can start to operate. On the right side of the screen, there you see the waiting room. There will be 2 waiting rooms as we have 2 milking parlors, and you see now 1 tunnel. This is the first waiting room for cows with a fully automated fence who guides the cows to the milking rotor. And if you look a little bit, I don't know if you could see it on the picture, but if you look a little bit to the right, that's the middle part, and then the middle part that is an fully automatic selection area. So if the milker sees that there is something with the cow or whatever, or it needs further verification by a vet, it will be selected out of the group, and it will end up in the middle part of the stable, where the vet will do a health check. And then after that middle part, there comes the second milking rotor and the second waiting room. Here are some other pictures. We have here water storage, of course, is necessary. And here we see the stables that for the ones who visited us as the Investors Day 2 years ago. There you know we call them bicycle stables because they look like the bicycle buildings in the Netherlands. The stables for the cows, and there will be the majority of the cows hosted. Then we go to the compost plant. We were happy to announce last year our first compost plant, although we had quite some delays there, mainly due to the shipping part. That was mainly to do with the crisis in Israel and Lebanon, where the maritime sector was heavily affected. Also, in the beginning of this year, of course, we announced the second plant. In a month, we will have an EGMS to vote for the approval of the loan. And as soon as the loan is approved, we can almost start construction next day. We have the financing normally guaranteed by the bank if all the shareholders, or a majority of the shareholders, approve this financing of 1.7 million euros. We have the land already, etc. We have an offer from a construction company. So that will do a third party in this case, because our guys are working at the Strasia farm. And we expect that it will go on the boat if everything is approved in August. So if everything goes smoothly, it will be between 4 to 6 weeks on the boat. So we will be able to install it also this year. And through that, we will increase our production capacity from 7,000 tons on an annual basis to 14,000 tons of output. And that means of input, of course, 42,000 tons, as well as that we included already in the project for obtaining voluntary certificates. So we will also double the 16,000 to 32,000 voluntary certificates, which we expect to receive the first ones after 2 years of implementation. Currently, those certificates, they have a value between 20 and 30 euros. We will be able to sell them. There's also clear interest to buy those certificates. We expect in the coming years, at least that are the estimations, but when everything is going on in the world, nothing is secure anymore. But at least the expectations are that it will grow the value in the coming years. And in approximately 2 years, they estimate that the values are over 50 euros per certificate, but that we need to see. At the moment, it's 20 to 30 euro. It varies a bit. Yes, so do we have anything that are the carbon credits, of course, and then to the biomethane plant. Last year we signed the cooperation agreement with Black Sea Oil and Gas, or BSOG Energy, a sister company of Black Sea Oil and Gas, which is owned by Carlyle and EBRD. We signed a contract, a cooperation agreement for 15 years. The value of the contract is more than 50 million euros, where we estimate at least to have a turnover of or sales incomes between 3 and 3.5 million euros. It will also reduce with 90% our emissions. So we have compost by reduction of emissions, we have biogas by reduction of emissions, as well as the reduction of chemical fertilizer, of course, and the solar panel, which will be on the next slide. The next steps are that we are acquiring the land. We are quite far. That part is almost finalized, but probably, as you're all aware, you don't purchase 1 hectare in Romania that is not from one person. That is quite hard. So these kind of things take a lot of time. But this year, at least what I expect is that in the coming months, we also announced the supply contract and the development agreement that we are negotiating on now, but it looks quite good and we are quite far in those negotiations. Those follow out of the cooperation agreement. Of course, one of the key things is, of course, that you are able to inject biogas or biomethane in this case into the grid, as well as that certificates of origin start to be tradable. Both are not possible today. But the government, there are a lot of discussions on this topic, and we expect this will be implemented. But of course, some things are a little bit on hold now due to the elections. But we expect that after May, some significant progress will be made there, especially that more companies are looking into production of biomethane or to in renewables as well. So to purchase green biomethane. So things in general look good over there. When do we expect that it will become operational? As now, if everything goes on schedule, we expect that it will become operational in the second part of 2027. And if things take a bit longer in 2028. But as I said, there are, of course, 2 conditions. It's or at least the minimum condition is at least to be able to inject into the grid. But on forehand, we will finalize the full project. So with to have a full, you can do on forehand already a lot. As I mentioned, land, etc. You can of course start for permits, etc. So there's a lot of work to be done before. I mentioned just already about the obtaining voluntary certification for compost produced, as well as for the no-till technology that we use on our fields. Also there we will obtain certification, but the number is way smaller than what we could receive or obtain through the compost production. We expect this year, at least we will calculate in our budget this year, 3,500 tons to sell outside of the group. Currently, the first few trucks of the compost are finalized, and they are brought to our fields to use internally first. And secondly is the production cycle normally takes 27 days. So how it works is we bring in the manure, the dry manure, and as well the more liquid manure. We mix it and we bring it into the machine, and then let's say 9 months per year it's a production cycle of 27 days. We had quite some cold weeks lately. So in the winter, it takes a bit more time, 33, maximum 35 days. So that is also, you need to have 1 production cycle to start to test if the parameters are sufficient, especially to sell it outside of the group. I think in a month we can really start this process because now we do another cycle. And then we start to certify it as organic fertilizer. And as I mentioned already before, it varies, but you can also easily Google it yourself. But the sales prices on the market at the moment are between on average, I think 200 to 230 euros per ton, but you have also up to 300 euros. So it's a big variation there. We saw huge interest when we announced the first plant. Also now with the second plant, we have already a lot of requests, also locally. But first, we need to be able to certify it. So we expect in the second part of the year to sell 3,500 tons. Next year, when we have a total capacity of 14,000 tons, we expect, or we will budget to sell outside of the group approx 10,000 tons, I think, somewhere between 8 and 10,000 tons. But this we will announce when we publish the budget, but we will see there a significant increase. Then the vertical farm. We are quite far with far, but we are in the design phase of this project, as well as discussing with several parties for financing. We are looking into this wheat production, so wheatgrass production with a production cycle of 6 days, varies a bit, 6 to 8 days, with a water reduction of 90% and a constant protein level of over 20%. This gives constant food supply for the cows. It gives a constant quality for cows, and especially a constant protein for cows. Of course, the challenge is here the electricity output, but that we plan to solve through solar and batteries. The first farm where we would like to test this system is at the Koet farm to start to feed our animals with this wheatgrass as an addition. Currently, first we see it as a replacement of rapeseed. Rapeseed we import from Hungary. Last year we had the import for rapeseed of over 4 million euros group-wide, so on a consolidated level. But with this we can have complete control. We could even inject to optimize the production cycle CO2 that is captured by the biogas plant, and with this we could inject in the vertical farm. And it's a fully automated process which will work 24 hours per day, and we expect great results from this, and especially for the health of the cows, and then a step forward also an increase of milk production. There are quite some success stories. Not in Europe. We would, in case we succeed to build such a farm, we will be the first in Europe. But in America, you see this, or in the United States, in Asian countries, and in the Arabic countries as well. The minimum scale of a farm where it is economic efficient is from 2,000 dairy cows. We expect in the coming months to come with some announcement, especially to this project. Then, of course, we have the EGMS on the 25th of March. One is a new compost plant where we double our capacity. It will be delivered in the Q3, we expect, or beginning Q4, but okay, this we need to see this year. Also, it will be installed this year. And then from next year, as we gain now already experience, we expect, as I said already, between 8,000 and 10,000 of final product. We have more as final product, but to sell out of the group between 8,000 and 10,000. As well as for the approval of the solar panels, we expect to be them installed in Q2. And that will make our farms, the Appold farm, the Koet farm, and the Lacto Agrar farm, electricity neutral. Then the outlook on the milk evolution, we discussed it already a bit. The green line is 2024, and the purple bluish line is 2025. So we can see that we have a really strong Q1. The milk price is significantly higher than Q1 last year. We know already our milk price up to April, so we see a steady decline. We expect also that it will further decline, but in a slower pace in May and in June. Or June, we are not completely sure about. It could also be that in June already start to stabilize. That is a little bit uncertain, but we expect stabilization in June, July, also in August, and then that the milk price will grow approximately in September. But we see a trend in Europe, at least in some major exporting countries, as I mentioned already, one of them, the Netherlands, that year on year less milk is collected. So this should put more pressure on the milk price to increase in the future. Now, yeah, what could be some negative effect? Let's say so far it is for the winter wheat. We have a significant lower rainfall between October last year and March this year. So far we have 72 milliliters. Last weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we had some rainfall in this area, but we also didn't have lots of snow. So for the wheat grain, this could be, for the winter wheat, this could be an issue because that is already harvested in a few months. For the rest of the year, of course, we cannot do a prediction here. This could result, of course, later on, especially that we are growing so fast that we will be forced to buy food from the market. That is not necessarily an issue. Of course, you will always lose. Your production costs will always be higher. But we have many years. If the rest of the country will have a successful year, then the effect will be partially limited due to the fact that also last year not, but the 3 years before, we didn't succeed any of those years to compete. Our production costs didn't compete with market level. And especially last year, you can see we had 200 and the year before almost 150. So there are quite some differences. Then to the rest of the outlook of the budget, as I mentioned already, we are finalizing our budget in the coming period. We will budget on the average milk price that we received last year. So that's more or less the same structure as we did the previous year. So that is a higher sales price of 2.76%. I think the two main or big changes of parts is the weather, as well as you all aware of, is the facility that was cancelled by the government for the agricultural sector. That automatically means that our salary costs will increase with approx 15%, as well as a normal increase of salary to compensate employees for the inflation, etc. So there we see a sharp increase. Nevertheless, the milk price is still significant high, and we expect also that the milk price so far as we can oversee the year, that the average milk price will not be lower than the average milk price of the last year, and that's also the reason that we will make our budget based on that. So we will make the budget based on the average milk price of last year and of 3,500 tons of organic fertilizer to sell outside of the group. We will not budget that directly on 230 euros. We will put it a bit lower to be on the safe side, because we need to start the sales process there. We are confident it will be a good year. That we also will show some growth. Also the coming year, and I saw already one question if it is a single digit or a double digit. Although we would not like to emphasize too much already on the budget, because we will publish it later. But I think it will be a double digit by the end of the day. But we don't expect. It is a bit of an in-between year, especially that production costs in the beginning in Strage will be relatively high. We have. Then in the beginning, of course, too many employees. We have machinery, the tractors are already there, the feeding machine, etc. And in the beginning, they just feed for just a few cows. So that takes a bit of time to optimize there. But we are still confident that we will show sufficient growth, which is also interesting for investors. But it takes a bit of time, and we expect that we will accelerate next year. So 2026, we expect a further acceleration, especially then we have more compost. Further increase, we should have further increase in milk production at the Appold farm, and of course we have already 1,800 dairy cows in the Strage farm, and that should be large enough to also give a contribution to the profitability of the company as a whole. Let me see. Then we had here the first two questions. Are there any plans to transition to the main market and attract institutional investors? At the moment, in our opinion, the valuation of the company is too low to go to the main market. That's also based on many discussions that we had in the past. Every year, we try to meet, and so far we succeed with all the major pension funds and institutional investors. We will also do that this year. We start also to go more outside of Romania. We will attend again the Soers event it's an event organized by the Raiffeisen Bank. It's the second year in a row. We are the only aero market company who is invited there so far. There we will have discussion with institutionals also from Romania again, but also from many other countries who are interested to invest in Eastern Europe and especially in Romania. So we are having these discussions, but we need to be closer to a market cap of 100 million euros. Okay, we also see that the conditions currently are really difficult, and that whatever results we will present, that it will be really hard in this period to reach a fair valuation of the company. So we will analyze this in the coming years. What I can say is we almost finalized the implementation of IFRS that I expect to finalize. And now I look to Michela in the first half year, we hope, of this year. We are supported by that by Mazars, so we take this really serious. And if everything goes smooth, we will start partly already to publish this year, but otherwise from next year. So more or less, then we are ready to do the upgrade to the main market, but it depends really on the market conditions. But we expect it that it should take at least 2 more years, let's say, before we will do this upgrade to have even a more mature company than we already are today, a bigger size, also to attract larger investments, to be able to do larger investments, because a lot of institutionals, they don't look for financing for our investment for 10 million euros, but it starts between 20 and 30 million euros. For that, you need to also to have a certain size and a certain market cap. But that's clearly our goal on the long term, and we see great interest from institutionals, from pension funds. The only thing so far they commented on was that we need to have IFRS and an updated bit of corporate governance structure. And their advice is, in general, to companies, don't go to the main market when you're significantly under a market cap of 100 million euros. Then we had another, do you intend to build a dairy products factory? No, at the moment we don't have any plans to further integrate a factory or whatsoever. We have a diversification strategy that is first compost. Secondly, that is the biomethane plant, which will generate extra revenues between 3 and 3.5 million euros with a really high profit margin, as you can imagine, because there we have only transportation costs, which will significantly improve, especially our profitability. And that's where we look into now. So when the biomethane plant is operational and the compost is fully operational plus Traja, we expect, let's say, that the contribution to the results are 60% from the farms and approximately 40% from compost and biomethane production. So that's the first diversification steps. Next to that, we look now into this wheat grass production to further optimize production cost as well as the quality of food. And a bit on the long term, but that will be present in our strategy, is also that, but we mentioned this also last year, that we also look to certain vegetable production, etc., especially that Romania is a large importer of many fruits and vegetables. And we, of course, do M&As. Let me see. Yeah, first, Daniela, could you interfere with some extra questions?
Yeah, sure. So we encourage everyone to send questions also further now. We already received some questions. The first one, Peter anticipated and already answered. It's related to the expectation regarding the growth, if it's a single digit or a double digit growth. The second question is about, do you target a net profit margin for 2025 similar to the one from 2024?
Yeah, that question we will answer when we present the budget. As I said, there are some uncertainties. I mentioned already the salary cost, where we will have a significant change. First of all, 15% of the facility, as well as that we expect that generally an annual growth of salary cost. Last year we had 7%. This year we expect 5% or a bit over that. So that we need to mitigate. Nevertheless, the milk price, I'm fully aware, is significantly higher so far than the previous year. But to keep exactly the same profit margin also depends on the input costs look good, at least. The import costs so far, for what we can see, are not higher than last year. But I need to mention there, probably you all saw today already, gas prices rose significantly through the situation between the Trump administration and Zelensky. So also that could have, of course, a significant impact by the end of the day to our results. So that is all really, really uncertain. But so this we need to see. We need to do some more calculations. I'm confident that it will be a double-digit growth. That let's say that I can give away already. But exactly the profit margin, we will come by the end of March with it. Next.
Thank you, Peter. Another question is related to the share capital increase. If you plan on any share capital increase in the first 6 months of 2025.
No, that's in our opinion, the company is significantly undervaluated, as well as the market conditions in general are really difficult. No, we don't. Okay, you can never say no, but let's say for 99.999%, we are sure that we will not go to the market, especially also for the projects that we will announce or the new investment that we will announce. I think we will be able to announce them. They will be announced already partially in the strategy that we will publish and present in the beginning of April. There we will look for other sources of financing. You should think of soft financing, it's a possibility, or bank financing.
Thank you. Another question is related to the impact on profitability from the compost factory as well as from the biogas operation. Maybe if you can summarize what you already mentioned a bit earlier.
Yeah. To be clear on that, for this year, we estimate. So normally on an annual basis, if everything goes smoothly and the weather is not, you don't have too much volatility in the way, especially the winter is not too cold. Let's say it this way. Normally you could produce to have a maximum capacity of 7,000 tons. Anyway, we start now to optimize processes, etc. So the first half year, everything what is produced, we will only use internally. So in our budget, we will calculate for 3,500 tons maximum this year to sell outside of the group. As I said, market prices are 200 to 230. I think we will budget conservative on this part. So probably, no, I cannot say this because if I give away now already the sales price, it will be hard to negotiate with others if I say that we are also willing to sell it for another price. But to start the process and to have the final product, it takes a bit time to reach the maximum sale price, let's say. But we will budget conservative in this way for 3,500 tons. Next year, we expect 10,000 tons, and the year after it should further increase to 12,000 tons and to keep those 2,000 tons inside. Nevertheless, but I don't want to disclose everything from the strategy because I will fight with Daniela afterwards. But we will, of course, our plans are to further increase compost or our tons of organic fertilizer also in the coming years. But so for this year, second half of the year, 3,500 tons. Next year, 10,000 tons, and the year after, 12,000 tons. Daniela. And for the biomethane, as I said already, if everything goes smoothly, the second part, so Q3 and Q4 of 2027, otherwise beginning 2028. So far, everything goes on schedule, so there is nothing to worry about. But of course, as I mentioned, we depend also on the authorities.
Thank you. Next question is related to the working scenarios. And this mentioned that you have prepared the working scenarios last year, showing the potential of the net turnover and net profits for the period 2024-2027. And the question is if you can please give an update on the scenarios and expected net turnover and net profits in the upcoming years, but maybe also beyond 2027. So related to the strategy, basically.
Yeah, our strategy is called Strategy 2030. So also the scenarios will be updated accordingly to 2030. What we will do is we will put in the strategy some investment where we are sure about. So it's more a rollout of investments and some, let's call it nice to have. And that you could see, especially on M&A, probably also we will put there the vegetable and fruit production. But we have also some clear project that we want to start and where we expect already to start to execute, at least partially, as I said, the second part of next year. And it will all be included in the scenarios. Again, partially based, because now we mainly base them on the sales price of milk. And then we have, of course, 4 scenarios. Here will be included, of course, compost. Further increase of compost, first have 14,000 tons. Next to that, we have a reduction, of course, in energy cost due to the installation of the solar panels on 3 farms, which we will try. We hope these funds come available again in September. So then we would try to probably also see if the Strasje farm is eligible to also obtain solar panels there. And in those scenarios will also the biomethane production, of course, included, as well as the trade of the certificates. But as I said, with the certificate, it will be hard to predict. As I say, now it's 20, 30 euros, and we don't know what that price will be in 4 or 5 years, especially with the companies in the United States walking away, at least from the Paris Agreement and these kind of things. Next question.
We still have questions, but
Oh, sorry, and to announce to the scenarios, beginning in the first 2 weeks of April, they will be published.
Super. We still have questions, but just as a reminder for the participants, if you have a follow-up question or other questions, please do write them in chat or directly in the Q&A section. So congratulations for the great job that you are doing. One question, there are various viruses and diseases that cows can get. Is there any way you can ensure or protect your income in case of such a scenario?
Yes, we have insurance for our animals, so we do. Also, we do vaccinations. We have a whole health program. We have at every farm a hospital where we take care of our animals. So we do as much as we can, also against blue tongue and these kind of things. You can never, especially now with the biomethane plant, we make really strict procedures because we get relatively a lot of traffic with trucks and these kind of things for our farms. But we control this so far, and so far we had never issues. We are aware that some months ago there were also some diseases in the US. So far we didn't see that in Europe, as well as I think there were some cases in Germany as well, but we don't hear anything there anymore. So far we don't expect any issues there. But we have really strict procedures like disinfection. We don't allow other people on our farms and these kind of things. And of course vaccination and checks, etc. But of course that is the biggest fear. When you have a large farm. That could be. But we have insurance on the cows, so they are insured for these kind of things.
Thank you, Peter. We still have questions. The next one is, how long will it take to obtain voluntary CO2 certificates for the compost factory?
Yeah, so the investment is, and there is some good news. For the first 16,000 certificates, the investment was 180,000 euros in the first 2 years to obtain. For that, you need to have a consultant, auditor, and some. They will be also certified as gold standard, as it's called, and that cost in the first 2 years to obtain them is 180,000 euros, and then you obtain them for 5 years, and that you can prolong 2 times up to a maximum of 15 years. This period, so it will take now to implement it is for that will take 2 years, and then we will start to obtain the first certificates. We negotiated just last week that in case the compost factory gets the second one gets approved by the EGMS in March, then we can include those certificates, those extra 16,000 that will come into the company. We can include it in that 180,000 euros. So we don't need to pay another or to invest another 180,000 euros. So we will combine them. So with that, we save almost 200,000 euros. But yeah, it will take 2 years to obtain them.
Thank you. Another question is, will you need to obtain organic certification for the second compost factory, or you will be able to use the certification you already have for the first compost unit? So if you need to do extra steps, or is the same?
Yeah, as I just mentioned, we just negotiated last week that we can include from the second compost plant. They accept that because anyway, we are now in the middle of the process. So they will be included in this. So the first 16,000. So instead of 16,000, the first 32,000. I need to say that the 32,000 certificates annually. So there are 32,000 certificates which you receive every year. That's okay. It is an estimation. We don't know actual if we will receive that, and that you will receive for 5 years, as I said, and then you can prolong it for another 5 years, and for one more time 5 years. And after 15 years, this program stops.
Thank you. Another question is related to the irrigation systems. If you have any plans for some irrigation systems for crops?
Yeah, no. No, first of all, it's hilly over here, so that's hard already with irrigation system. Secondly, the majority is salt water. So we don't really, that's the only disadvantage in the area where we're located, especially if you compare to Bucharest or the south, etc., where it's more flat. We don't have this possibility. Okay, there could be some hectares, I don't know, maybe a few hundred or whatsoever, where this could be possible. But we're not looking into this. Another way where we look into is this vertical farm for wheat grass, let's say, there where we replace rapeseed, but in the future, we could even also use that to replace or partially replace other crops. And they need 90% less water, no pesticides, no herbicides, etc. Of course, that is quite early stage. First, the business case looks good, at least for to replace the imports from Hungary. For conventional crops, especially for lucerne, you could also replace a lucerne with it. But of course, lucerne you can harvest 4 times per year. So it's hard for such a farm to compete with it. But we're looking in different scenarios. But in this area, normally Transylvania was, my father chose Transylvania to locate a company because of the rainfall. Okay, unfortunately, this year, so far, it doesn't look that great. But still, we are an integrated business, and so far, also in other years, it has an effect, let's say, but somehow we managed to incorporate it. So no, for now, not. In case we would be able to do an M&A further away, and where there is the possibility, of course, we would try to obtain those things. But as I said, we prefer more a circular or an integrated business line. So it's not our intention just to become I don't know, a sunflower producer or just a wheat producer to sell it outside of the group. It's not our business model.
Thank you. The next question is related to the milk market. And is there a forward market for milk where you can hedge your prices?
Yes, there is, but we don't do this, I think, at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, yeah, there is such a market. We just prolonged our contract with our largest client last year with 3 years, and we follow a certain mechanism based on an average price of 6 Northwestern European countries, and that is how our price is followed. So if the price it's that we did this mainly because it's a safe way to do it. This is also a safe way to do it, but this is why this is safe. We think it follows just the market trends, let's say. So also the processor is generally always secure with the price and never pays significantly higher or significantly less than what the market is. And also it gives us some predictability. We are a large producer. We also sell some milk on the spot market. We started with this last year, and so far we are happy, but it's only because the spot market price is already really good for a long time. So of course that's the main reason of the success. But there are not many large processors that can handle our quantities of milk. We only sell full trucks. Probably there are only in Romania capable on a regular basis, let's say, who can handle one truck, at least one truck per day. There are only probably 5 companies who could process that. So that's the reason we go more for long-term contracts based on the milk variation price.
Thank you. And we have another follow-up question regarding the compost. I was interested to know if the compost from the second factory will need to be certified separately as an organic product, or you will be able to sell it from the beginning for €200 per ton.
I think this needs to be because it's on a different location, but this is something I need to check, because the first idea was to also certify the voluntary certificates on both companies, so on Lacto and on Apold. And just 3 days ago, we changed the procedure to start the certification process on the Dana Group, on the holding company. So in this case, I need to check if this is the case. Normally, I think we need to because it's on a different legal entity, etc. So I think we need to certify it again in this case. But of course, normally it should go smoother because we know at least the process, etc., the pre-composting area, because it needs to pre-compose 5 days, the mixture. So it will take at least a few months. That's also the reason that we estimate the second year at 10,000 tons or we will budget on 10,000 tons and not on 14,000 tons to be on the safe side. But of course, if everything goes smoothly and we can reach 12,000 tons, we will go for it.
Thank you. This was the last question received in chat. So I want to ask the participants if they have any follow-up questions or new questions.
Okay, in the meantime, I will go to the agenda at least, so you can still ask questions to move on. So on the 25th of March, we hope it will be partially online, although it is where we will again explain the projects, why we think these are good investments. They are mainly financed by ING, but also on the solar it's partially Exim. Then we have at the end of March, we will publish all our materials, so our final annual report. Then at the end of April, the 29th of April, we have our annual shareholders meeting. And then the beginning of May, in the week 1 or latest week 2, we will publish our ESG report 2024. And then on the 20 of 22, I think, 6. Yes, but this is wrong. No, sorry. On the 22nd of May, we have the publication of our first quarter results, and on the 26th of May, through a teleconference, of course, we will discuss with you again the results. Also, I would like to draw your attention about in September that we are planning this year to have an Investors Day again, and for sure we will visit there the Strasia farm. That will be part of the program, and later announcement of the program and maybe speakers. And other people that we will invite will follow later this year. And of course, the strategy, as I mentioned, is in the beginning of April. And we will combine the budget together with the annual report will be published at the end of March. And the strategy in week 1, I think in week 1 of April, we will present the strategy. There will be also the scenarios included.
Thank you, Peter. So for the moment, no follow-up questions, no new questions. I believe this is all from the side of the participants.
Okay, thank you very much for your attention. I hope to see you at the EGMS in March, or otherwise at our AGA, and otherwise at the Q1 results. So have a great evening and see you soon.